Welcome to the Gopher Locker Room here at TCF Bank Stadium and another edition of Sunday Night Overtime with Coach Claeys. With the head coach Tracy Claeys, I'm Justin Gaard from KFAN Radio, and we're brought to you by the Minnesota Lottery. A reminder that this is your show. I get to ask a handful of questions. We're going to run through some Twitter questions here in just a minute, but we are looking for Facebook questions as this show goes on. We're going to get to them in our second segment of the show, and if your question is selected, you might be our Minnesota Lottery question of the week. You'll get a Minnesota Lottery prize pack. So get those questions going into the comment section right here on the Gopher Football Facebook page, and we'll get to those momentarily. Coach, it's good to see you as always. I'm curious, you've had a day to kind of decompress after a tough 14-7 loss to the Hawkeyes. What are your general thoughts about the ball game yesterday?
Well, as usual, you know, when you lose, the disappointment that comes with it from everybody involved. I mean, we all put a lot of time into it, but you know, this one there's even a little bit more because you're playing a trophy game against a border war, and it means so much to the whole state. And so, you know, to have it there at the end, and it was a defensive coach, I suppose. You look at it, we're 7-6 late, and you think, boy, what a great game, and we give up the score late, and then we get it back down and have a throw in the end zone for an opportunity to tie the ball game and don't get it done. And so, but you know, you're disappointed because offensively, our kids know we can play better on offense, and we missed a couple tackles on defense that did have an effect there at the end. But overall, I felt like we played well enough on defense to win the game. But offensively, we got to play better, and it's my responsibility. Offensive coaches, that's our responsibility to play better.
As we sat here a week ago, and actually we've talked about the defense a couple of different times on this show, giving up big plays, not the level that you're used to, certainly right. When you were the coordinator, now as the head coach. Not an issue yesterday. Obviously, you don't like giving up a big touchdown in the fourth quarter right. When you have the lead, but what do you think the difference was defensively, why you guys were able to play so well for most of the day?
You know, we were in a good position for the most part, in position to make tackles, and even the last run, we had somebody there to make the tackle and missed it, and so, you know, and then the defense, you know, they worked hard. I thought they played with a lot of energy, and you know, the other side of the ball just didn't have a lot of energy yesterday for whatever reason. And we had a good meeting today, and like I told them, is that offensive line-wise we can play better. Receivers dropped a few balls here and there, we can play better. Mitch can play better, you know, and so it's got to be a team effort, including coaches. I mean, ultimately I'm responsible. You know, I tell our coaches all the time, we go through game film, is that, you know, coaches, they lose games, players win game. I think when you evaluate things, that's how you have to do it. And basically that's another way of saying play to your kids' strengths and give them the best chance. And so we went through the film, and you know, we'll get to work, you know, as always, and we had an extra practice tonight to get in a little bit of work and try to fix some of those problems we're having.
Offensively, you mentioned maybe energy being one of the issues, and on this show, really, we haven't had to deal a lot with offensive struggles because you hadn't had any. It was kind of surprising to see the offense struggle to the extent that they did yesterday. Energy is one thing you mentioned. Yeah. Anything else that you
just
point to?
Didn't finish blocks, and even the backs. We still had a couple of creases up there, and they were looking to bounce everything, and then they needed to put it up in there a little bit more too. So. We didn't play as physical as we needed to, but the bottom line is I'm responsible for that, and I need to do a better job of getting them ready.
A reminder to get your Facebook questions in right now. We'll take those after Sights and Sounds in just a minute. And don't forget, Minnesota Lottery prize pack on the line for a good Facebook question tonight. But let's get going with some Twitter questions here, Coach. The first one is from mfox7610. Want to know maybe why you didn't stick with the run game yesterday as much as you typically had. You mentioned just about 100 yards, 21 carries, I think, for the main two backs. Anything into that?
No, you know, we only got like 60 snaps. You know, again, you know, 10 of the 13 possessions before the last one was 3 plays and out. You know, we couldn't get anything going in the running game. We dropped a couple balls, and so you know, we need to finish blocks better. And I compare, like I told kids, is that when you go through games, they played 2 other Big Ten teams, and both of those 2 teams been able to rush for 200 yards against them. And so I was really disappointed in that aspect of it. But you know, when you're getting whipped up front, and then you have the penalties that we had and all that, it's hard to run very many plays.
On the penalties, I think that's where Aaron wants to go next here on our Twitter portion, talking about the false starts. That a couple of them came up again yesterday and really put you in bad situations. It's something that all coaches address, penalties, and I know you have, but what else can be done to make sure it doesn't show up on Saturdays?
Well, I mean, it's the same thing at Penn State. We had one illegal shift penalty, but besides that, we didn't have any.
Right.
With the offense jumping, you got 95,000 fans going crazy, and so again, it's a focus, it's a concentration thing that you know, like I say, we got a little extra practice in and adjusted it and worked on it tonight a little bit, and but it's definitely something we'll address all through the week, and we need to get solved.
Did you to follow up on that, where the defense can yell at whatever they want to yell at the offense? You've done that a couple of different times, right? Where anything goes for the defense, they can do whatever, and no matter what, the offense just has to stay still.
Right, because it's all a cadence, you know, and so we worked on that this evening some too, and it's the inconsistency. You have a game, you eliminate it, it comes back, all of a sudden you have that when you're at home, you know, and we handled the noise so well, and at home there wasn't the noise. So, but again, you know, that's what we get paid for, to get that figured out.
Forrest Gopher has our last Twitter question of this segment. As a coach, what kind of approach do you take when a team has lost a couple of games and their dauber might be down a little bit? It's something I asked you on the radio show yesterday. How do you make sure that, you know, 2 doesn't turn into 3 and 3 into 4 and all of that? What's the biggest thing this week?
I don't know there's ever any standard way that you handle it. I think you got to take each game separately, you know, and I don't know that, obviously I'm not happy, and a lot of people aren't happy, and we didn't win, our kids aren't happy, but I don't know, to lose by 1 possession, 2 games is demoralizing, you know, and but it is a fact that, you know, last week is that we moved the ball awfully well against Penn State. We didn't score in the red zone. It was pretty easy to that, and this week, though, we just didn't move the ball. So, you know, I am a believer in a little bit of tough love when you don't play is what you're capable of playing, and so that's what I say, you know. But I also know this, is that when you're struggling, I don't care if it's somebody shooting a basketball, hitting a baseball, there's no way around. You got to practice.
Right.
Go out and practice and work your way through it, and so that's the most important part to solving it all.
Keep those Facebook questions coming. We'll get to those in just a minute. If you were if you weren't one of the 50,000 plus here at TCF Bank Stadium for the Battle of Floyd of Rosedale, you missed quite a bit. We like to get you caught up here with Sights and Sounds.
Every day, every play, every team, fight and war.
You mentioned before the game, I think Coach Ferentz did as well, that there's a different level of physicality when the border teams play. Did you see that? I certainly saw that from my spot. I think C.J. Beathard may have felt that as he got pinwheeled out of bounds, but the physicality was certainly there yesterday.
No question. Our defensive line got after them, and like I say, except for a couple plays, but it's a big time improvement, and now we got to play as a team. We had one game where the defense didn't play very well. The offense didn't play very well yesterday. We got to get it together and play as a team. When we do that, we're capable of doing some good things.
And no surprise, when the offense doesn't play very well, the fans all want to talk about offense. And that's what we'll do here on the Facebook Live questions. Yeah. Starting with Katie. She filed a question last segment, wanting to know about Mitch Leidner's performance against Iowa. Obviously, probably one that the senior would like to have back.
Yeah, no question. And it all goes back to going through your progressions again. And I had a great conversation with Mitch, is that they truly took away Drew Wolodarski, and they had 2 guys on him on big downs, and he got into that's who he wanted to throw it to, and made up his mind early instead of just going through his progressions. And then you see there at the end, the last drive, they weren't in the same defense, but he did. He went through his progressions, threw the ball, and we took it down. So yeah, it's an average performance. for him. But there at the end, I thought he did a good job to get us a throw into the end zone. The mistakes he made at the end was, he snapped the ball a couple times too early before everybody got set.
Right.
And we had plenty of time, so he got in a little bit too big a hurry. But no question, he'll tell you he can play better.
Let's go to Orion's Facebook question here. Just very succinctly, thoughts on the offensive line play. Seems like from yesterday and today, you made your thoughts kind of clear on that. You felt like they left some stuff out there yesterday.
Yeah, they did, and then you watch the film and the backs left a couple of them out there too, but nothing is consistent. And initial, our charge sometimes off the ball initially was fine, but blocking the second level and finishing off the first level, like I say, there just wasn't that extra pop and physicality there that you want. I tell all the time, road graders, knock people off the ball, and we didn't do that very well yesterday, and it was disappointing because other people have, and so again, not those kids. It's our job to find out why that happened and to get that corrected.
Last question of the night is from Ted, and because it's our last question here, it's our Minnesota Lottery question of the night. Ted will be awarded the Minnesota Lottery prize pack, so congratulations, Ted. How do we get the ball to Shannon Brooks more?
Yeah, is it him and Rodney really have done a good job, but again, I'm going to go back to, you only run 60 plays on offense, and you have 10 of 13 3 and outs. Is that there's only so much that you can do with that number of plays, and just we got, like I say, you have to control the line of scrimmage to be good on offense. I believe that. At least get stalemates and give yourselves a chance, and we didn't get that done yesterday, and it limited our plays that we could do. So now you're limiting touches to Brooks and Rodney both, and they're two of our better players, and we've got to find a way to get that done.
Thanks to everybody who submitted Facebook questions tonight as well as Twitter questions earlier in the day. We'll, of course, do that next Sunday on Sunday Night Overtime with Coach Claeys, and we'll get Ted his Minnesota Lottery prize pack very, very shortly. So let's wrap up the show tonight, Coach, with a very unfamiliar opponent. They're in the Big Ten. They've been in the Big Ten for a couple of years. The first time the Gophers will play Maryland as they've been a member of the Big Ten team. Is that kind of a unique challenge that it's not like Iowa or Wisconsin or a team that we go back with years and years and years? What do we know about Maryland?
Right, it's the same thing with video. You don't have any video of them playing conference opponents, and except for what they've done this year. So nobody's been to their place, and we play on the road. And I do know Coach Durkin. He's a good football coach. He's worked with some awfully good people, and he'll have his team ready to play. And it still comes down to, if you look at the games all across America, is that how does Navy turn around and beat Houston, and I think I've seen where Oregon lost really bad to Washington. We lost it's the team that shows up and plays the best, and sometimes that's hard to project what's going to happen. So next week it'll be the same thing. A team that shows up and makes the least mistakes and plays the best will win the football game, and we got to take all week to do everything we can to make sure we show up and play as good as we can.
We'll see you in the D.C. area Saturday. Thanks for the time.
Looking forward to it.
That's the head coach, Tracy Claeys. This has been Sunday Night Overtime with Coach Claeys. For all of us here at the show, we appreciate you watching. Thanks, as always, to the Minnesota Lottery. We'll talk to you next Sunday, 7 o'clock, right here on the Gopher Football Facebook page.